Greetings again, curious acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. Many times has the Mustafar duel been analyzed with a fine-tooth comb, and for good reason. Not only is it the longest lightsaber duel in the entire Star Wars saga, but it is also the most titular battle that decided the fate of the galaxy, and the outcome of the entire war between the Jedi and the Sith. The soul of the Chosen One had been lost to the dark side, and now it was up to Obi-Wan Kenobi to make one final stand for peace. In some ways, Obi-Wan succeeded in his mission, and in others, he utterly failed. However, no one can deny that this unassuming Jedi Master put up one of the most valiant fights in all of galactic history against the new Dark Lord, Darth Vader. It cannot be understated in any capacity how powerful Anakin had become whenever he embraced the darkness. But despite this, and against all odds, Obi-Wan still triumphed, much to the surprise and amazement of one Darth Sidious. The new Emperor had never thought in 1,000 years that Vader would be bested by the likes of Kenobi, and in the Legends novel Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, Sidious gives us a window into his musings as to why he believed Anakin lost, new insight to this critical duel. This one duel still gives us more to talk about even to this day. So without further ado, let's open up the holocron, and let's break down why Darth Sidious believed that Anakin was in a weakened state, and why ultimately Vader was defeated. The Duel of Mustafar has been analyzed in many different forms. Three of the most popular reasons cited for why Vader lost come down to his fighting styles of the two combatants, the fact that Obi-Wan was Anakin's master, and Kenobi using his former apprentice's arrogance against him. The analysis of fighting styles usually comes out to pointing to Kenobi's mastery of Form 3, the all-defense form, Surisu. The most defensive of all the forms greatly benefited Kenobi, and Obi-Wan had trained it to perfection, and even received an accolade from Windu, who said that he was the master of Form 3 lightsaber combat, not a master, the greatest who had ever lived. When directly comparing this to Anakin's use of the aggression form of Gem So, a form that relies on overwhelming offense, we begin to see how their forms mesh perfectly like puzzle pieces, and how Obi-Wan went the distance with Darth Vader until there was an opening for the Jedi Master to strike. But of course, fighting styles aside, Vader still should have eventually battered down Kenobi's defenses by sheer strength and power in the Force alone. Not even Dooku, one of the greatest duelists of that era, if not of all galactic history, was unable to match the sheer power of the young Skywalker. In the Revenge of the Sith novelization, we learned that even while Dooku was able to redirect the trajectory of Skywalker's blows, he was still having to spend lavishly on his Force reserves as they quickly deplenished. Anakin was too much. Kenobi, though, didn't have this problem because he had an ace in the hole, and he had fought alongside him during all of the Clone Wars. Kenobi knew Anakin inside and out. But still, even all of this was not the reason why Sidious stated that Anakin was weak on Mustafar and why he lost. Despite Kenobi knowing Anakin's form, Anakin on paper, and in the mind of everybody else except for Kenobi and Yoda, would have won, should have won. Anakin's arrogance blinded him, and Obi-Wan was able to use that arrogance against him. He's causing Anakin to not pay attention to his surroundings, with Kenobi even luring the Chosen One onto the very walkway that the two of them had just destroyed the heat shields for, trying to gain any advantage. And then the end. Kenobi leapt onto the black sand lava bank and spread his arms out wide, announcing that the duel was over because of his positioning. This was a warning, but more importantly, it was a challenge. Kenobi knew exactly what he was doing, and even gave Anakin a chance to take the humble route and not attempt the maneuver. Anakin had sparred endlessly with the Darth Maul training unit back at the temple, and desired to humiliate Obi-Wan by killing him with the same move that the young Kenobi used to defeat Maul, and the rest was history. But even through all of this, Darth Sidious in the book takes a long look at the duel, and still comes to the conclusion that Anakin should have won. But then, a slow realization. A passage from The Rise of Darth Vader says this: but even Sidious hadn't foreseen Anakin's defeat by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar. Anakin had still been between worlds then. It was clear he was vulnerable. The failure to defeat his former master had worked to prolong that vulnerability. This is the fascinating piece of information. Sidious was no fool, and recognized now that Anakin was still between the worlds of light, his friends, his love for Padme, his love for his unborn child, the desire to do good for the citizens of the galaxy, and now the dark. his need for power, the desire to keep Padme, and the selfishness of wanting to control his own destiny, nay, the entire galaxy. Because Anakin was in this transition between these two mindsets and worlds, parts of the very Force, this was not an easy thing, and it made him vulnerable. We experience Vader's sudden burst of power when he becomes a Sith Lord, but all of these events take place over what is seemingly one evening. Vader has little control or dominion over the powers of the dark side, no time to meditate on it, to train with it, to familiarize himself with his new powers. Why would he in his own mind? He was the chosen one. Anakin Skywalker went straight from betraying Mace Windu to leading an attack on the Jedi Temple to slaughtering the Separatists, and then finally, his duel with Kenobi. Anakin Skywalker was still there, and Vader had not fully committed to the dark side. Vader gorged on the dark side immediately. He did not sink into the flow of it, or even attempt to understand how to wield it. He had never tried to wield the dark side. He had always shunned it away, and we here at the Archives believe that even if this duel had taken place a few days later, Anakin would have triumphed. But then, Darth Sidious slips the dagger deeper into Anakin's failure. He lists one final reason why Vader embarrassed the Sith and himself, why a Jedi Master so much weaker defeated and butchered him, and in a rare moment, praises Kenobi. In the novel, Sidious is speaking to Vader while the Dark Lord is receiving repairs on his new body. The conversation happens only a matter of weeks following Mustafar, and Vader is still very much melancholy and freshly enraged at the entire situation. His new body is giving him immense pain and difficulty, and he is complaining about the new state of life to his master, not yet realizing his place. Palpatine is doing the best at first to try to get Vader to overcome this self-pity and look towards a better future of rulership and newfound power. Still pretending to be his friend, he attempts to encourage Vader, telling him that now they were unconquerable. But Vader whines and continues to sulk, saying that he wasn't strong enough to defeat Obi-Wan. And finally, Sidious breaks. Sidious gives into his anger and flings his words with brutal honesty like venom. No, you were not strong enough. So just imagine what Yoda might have done to you. Obi-Wan triumphed because he went to Mustafar with a single intention within his mind: to kill Darth Vader. If the Jedi Order had showed such resolute intention, if it had remained focused on what needed to be done rather than on fears of the dark side, it might have proved more difficult to topple and to eradicate. You and I may have lost everything. Do you understand now? This gives us amazing insight into not only Sidious's views on the Jedi Order, but Obi-Wan as a Jedi Master. He says that the Jedi were paranoid, and that their own members, if they had only stayed focused, the Jedi would have been too powerful to destroy. But that is a conversation for another time. What we want to focus on here is still Kenobi. Kenobi was acting as a Jedi should have acted. He acted in that moment with resolve and trust in the Force, just as Qui-Gon had tried to teach the young Kenobi for years, blocking out everything else. With the entire Jedi Order eradicated because of Anakin, Obi-Wan shut down all feelings towards his apprentice, towards his brother. All the emotions finally bubble to the surface after Obi-Wan defeats him, but during the duel, Obi-Wan was not emotional. He was focused. He was precise. He was a Jedi, single-minded, fortified in the Force. Anakin's emotions were erratic, all over the place, especially after his interaction with Padme. And Sidious reveals that Obi-Wan's true advantage was his determination and readiness to do anything to stop Anakin. And in a moment, Palpatine admires this trait. Anakin fell on all the pitfalls of the previous Sith. He was arrogant, inexperienced, and he was caught between the worlds of light and dark. He was conflicted, and he lost because he was conflicted, not because he was weaker. Obi-Wan Kenobi was not conflicted at all in this stance. Sidious assumed that Obi-Wan would hold back against Anakin, that there was no way that Obi-Wan did not lose that duel. And yet, Sidious was wrong. Kenobi was ready to kill Anakin, and Anakin was blind. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this and Palpatine's insight into this critical duel? And now I pose one of the most interesting questions I believe I've ever asked. What would happen if Vader had trained just a few more days, had familiarized himself just a little bit more? Could he have overcome Kenobi? Would he crush him? Or would he fall back and lose just as he did on Mustafar? As always, my friends, thank you for visiting our archives, and may the Force be with you.